What's up, everybody? Ron Placone here. Got some shows coming up. May 23rd, Seattle, Washington. Have not been to Seattle in a while. Cannot wait to see you. And in June, we are going to be at the Hollywood Fringe Festival with my new play, Termination Fee, which is a scathing commentary on the American healthcare system. Termination Fee features myself, Andrew Saxena, and Sarah K. Godot, and it is being produced in collaboration with Fringe Management and Plaque One Productions. The dates on that, June 8th, June 16th, June 21st, June 24th, and June 29th. That's at the Black Box Theater at the Broadwater. Wonderful, wonderful theater in Hollywood. You can get tickets and all information at ronplacone.com. And we're going to be making a feature film out of Termination Fee as well. So I'm really excited about this project. Can't wait for you to see it. Tickets and all information, again, ronplacone.com. What's up, everybody? The wait is finally over and totally over. Left at Wall is available now, right now. You can get Left at Wall on Apple TV, Google Play, YouTube Movies. You can get it on demand. You can buy it on DVD. The wait is totally over. Just type in Left at Wall on your search bar on your smart TV, and you can find a bunch of ways to get it. You can watch it now. Again, that's Left at Wall, wherever you get your movies. Episode 88, Caroline O'Riordan. Caroline O'Riordan is a writer, filmmaker, and healthcare activist. She founded the group Hollywood4CalCare, an organization dedicated to making healthcare a human right in California. That's how I met her, and she was at the Termination Fee preview. We get to know her origin story, and of course, we go off on some policy talk. Please welcome to the show, Caroline O'Riordan. Caroline O'Riordan, how are you? Good to see you.
Hey, I'm good, Ron. Thanks so much for having me. Great to see you.
Yeah, it's been a minute. So I want to start with your origin story. You grew up in Massachusetts.
I did, yes.
So break that down for me. Was it Boston or was it? Yeah, just take it from there. I don't know why I specified one city. I was just instead of just saying where was it in Massachusetts, I said, was it Boston? I don't know why.
No,
I wanted you to know I knew about a place.
No, you were close, and because I am in a suburb right outside of Boston that people in my family refer to as a first-tier suburb, which I don't think is real, but they like to call it that.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, it's called Arlington. It's next to Cambridge, which is where Harvard is, and so it's it's like a Revolutionary War area, very Irish Italian towny. So yeah, I'm from that town, from a towny family, and I went to college in Baltimore at Goucher College, and then I lived in New York City for about 7 years after that before moving to LA in 2021. So yeah, I'm an East Coast girl at heart, but here in LA, it's been a good experience so far.
So where'd you go to school in Baltimore?
Yeah, it's called Goucher. It's a small liberal arts college that is artsy fartsy a little bit, but also a little basic. So it was a good experience. I met my husband there, which was nice.
Yeah, that's always a good thing. Well, so what drew you? I've never heard of it. What drew you to that place?
Well, I was in the era of there was some book that was going around that was called The Colleges That Changed Lives. I'm such a millennial, and it was everyone was applying to colleges based off of all the colleges in that list. So I had a fantasy of going out to the Midwest because I was a big, I listened to all these Midwest bands like Bright Eyes and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then as soon as I got there, I visited and I was like, oh my God, I can't go here. But I had applied to mostly Midwestern schools. So it kind of came down to either going to UMass, which is the state school that I could have gone to for really cheap, or going to Goucher. And I was like, I can't go to the same college that everyone from my high school is going to go to. So yeah, I went to Baltimore, which, it was good. It was just outside of Baltimore, and it was kind of idyllic, honestly. It was right before smartphones. So I look back on it fondly.
Yeah, we are of the same era, and I
Yeah.
too look back on college fondly, and I had a similar thing. Like I went to Indiana University.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
so I was really entrenched in the whole Midwest music thing that was going on,
Totally.
and it kept getting bigger and bigger, and there were various levels of it, and I thought it was so cool to be around during that time, and yeah,
It
that's
was.
it really was. It
Yeah.
was a pretty cool era, and yeah, we just missed the smartphones completely taking over, which I'm glad that I had college before that stuff. I feel a little bit
Definitely.
relieved.
Absolutely. Like I was certainly texting on my little flip phone, but it was like it did feel pretty like untethered to like the internet, which was really nice. Yeah, Indiana, I visited Earlham College, and that was the one that made me say, I cannot go here.
Oh, okay.
Which I thought it was like just there was something about the area in Indiana that was like we went when it was raining and cold, and I just was like, I can't do this.
Yeah, I mean, so Bloomington is a really, really neat, it's one of the cool college towns. It's like a
Yes.
Madison or something like that. So I
Hmm.
just instantly really liked it a lot.
Nice.
And also I grew up in Pittsburgh, so the
Uh,
weather was actually better than what I was used to.
oh, nice.
So I was just like, wow, it's September and I'm still in a t-shirt. What is this tropical paradise I live in now? But but yeah, so well, what did you study then? You said it's an artsy fartsy place. So what were you into?
Yeah, I studied, I was into photography. And so but my college did not have a photography major. And so I did something kind of wacky and I created my own major, which was technically called photojournalism, but it was really kind of a combination of the art major with only photo classes and then also communications and international relations. And so, yeah, I got to kind of like design my own program, which was cool, and just have like a really nice intimate relationship with like one professor from each of those departments. Yeah, looking back, it's like I was one of those people who was like really good at English and history and really bad at math and science, which I'm sure many of us are like that in our
I can
industry.
relate. Yeah.
Yeah, but like my school was cool. I tested out of having to take some classes my freshman year because I had done like AP English, and my freshman year English class was literally a Coen Brothers, like the films of the Coen Brothers class, which was like really cool. And so now I'm a screenwriter, which I didn't start doing until like 5 or 6 years after college. But I definitely like kind of got my start with like, cinema and photography and just, I don't know, also learning kind of about the way the world works and just how corrupt and crazy everything is.
Yeah. So you go to college and then did you move out to New York City right after, or what happened post college?
Yeah, no, I bummed around Baltimore for a couple years.
Oh yeah.
I did some unpaid internships at like galleries, and just a bunch of my college friends. We all just lived for like $300-$400 a month in these like nice, row homes, and we just kind of like worked at restaurants and drank and hung out, and it was certainly like very, I was existentially stressed because I was really trying to get like some job at the museum or, get some sort of professional job, and it just like wasn't working out. And so that's why I did end up going to New York. I actually went, the move to New York came kind of slowly. I went to New York for a photo internship for a summer, a year after I graduated. And I thought I was actually going to go back. I thought I was going to like maybe get an MFA in like photography, because that's what like your parents say you should do. Like if you can't find a job, it's like you can always teach.
Yeah.
So I went to New York and thought I was going to do a master's program like back in Baltimore maybe the next year, and that's when I actually discovered improv comedy at UCB.
Oh, no.
So
there it is.
Because I was so broke. I had two best friends from college who were living in like the top in Williamsburg, like kind of right as Williamsburg was really popping off with like the influx of kids moving there after college. It was like 2013. We were living in this one room that was like the top floor of a duplex, and the three of us shared this room. I just was like, hey, can I just come and stay with you guys? And they both had boyfriends, so they were kind of like in and out, which was lucky for me. But yeah, I worked like an unpaid internship for the whole summer and lived off of like $3,000 or something. And it was like UCB was pretty cheap. And so that was kind of like all I did was I like walked around the city and like went to see improv shows and stuff. And listened to podcasts and just learned how everyone in the industry gets started basically doing UCB. So I went back to Baltimore and then kind of made a move with my now husband where we like, we're like, all right, let's go to New York together and try to get real jobs and see what happens.
So then what happened once you got to New York?
Yeah, it was, I started taking improv classes while I luckily finally did get a job in the photography industry. My first, like right as I was about to take my first restaurant job, I moved to Bed-Stuy and I was about to start working at a restaurant, and I got just in time, I got hired to be like a receptionist at a law firm, and did that for a few months. And then that job was like horrifying. My boss was psycho. And so I started applying for other jobs and got a job as a studio manager for a photographer. He was like this still life photographer in the Flatiron district. And, it was a cool experience. I was just kind of like a little studio gal who was like setting out lunch for like Bloomingdale's clients and stuff. So I did that. Then unfortunately, he like was losing work because like social media was just basically wiping out the commercial photography industry as soon as I got into it. So he like had to lay me off like a year into that job. And so then I went to work at a photo agency as an assistant photo producer, which also was kind of a nightmare. My boss was like this ex-Austrian model. And also, again, photography industry continued to die. And yeah, then I kind of at that point, I was like 26, 27. I started making like comedy videos myself, where I kind of, I was taking classes at UCB and was like, I really like this. And, had dreams of like, maybe, just be like, why can't I be on SNL? And then you kind of realize like, oh, I'm not really like a born performer. I think what I'm really connecting with here is like, writing. And so I did some videos, I made a web series, and then worked for another photographer after leaving that job. And then finally at the age of 28, I got my first office PA job working on this show called The Tick, which was like an Amazon show. So that was like, I had been desperately trying for like a year, applying to like executive assistant at HBO or like, I didn't even really know what like an office PA was. But I got it through nepotism. I have like a distant aunt, like my mom's cousin, who is a production executive in LA. And she called her like line producer friend who, met with me and then hired me the next show she got. So like, I mean, even as it's like, obviously that is nepotism. I just am like, I don't know why that was so hard to get that first job, but I didn't go to film school. So I guess like, I don't know, you got to know someone, which really sucks.
Yeah. I think even if you do go to film school, you still got to know somebody. Like it's just all, yeah, it's just so, and there's just way less jobs too, which we're going to jump into all that. Yeah. But based on everything you've said so far, do you think, millennials, do you think we just in so many ways got like the tail end of a bunch of stuff? Like we just got a taste of what things were and then it just disappeared. And so we're like aware of it, but it's like we just got like, even when you were describing just kind of being in your early 20s and kind of just getting by and, having a good time. I mean, that was my early 20s as well. I went up to Seattle to try to just figure my life out. Nice. And that's how I got really, really into stand-up. and I was
Nice.
just working temp jobs, whatever, getting by, going on the road once I started getting to that point. And I don't know if young people, like early 20s, young people can do that anymore. Like, I don't even know if that's much of a possibility.
Yeah, I think honestly, like the psychological digital hurdle is probably the biggest thing they're facing. Like, I just like, because the internet was just so not as much of a part of our daily lives when I'm like, it's like 2012, that's when I graduated college. It's like, you'd go back to your room and you'd go on the internet for a little bit. And it's like, you weren't just constantly being shown what all the options for life are and like what everything is. It's like, I had to go to New York and like figure out what this path could be kind of like in person. And yeah, I just think I can't really imagine, well, one, just the cost of like college. Like, I was really lucky. I was able to have like my grandparents essentially paid off my student loans like as soon as I graduated, like, which is looking back, I'm like, that was the single biggest thing that allowed me to like chill a little bit probably and like explore what I wanted to do. Yeah, I agree. I think I don't know. Millennials, I think we can be a little bit like, we have it, or any generation can think that they had it this way and no one after them has it that way. I hope that, Gen Z has been able to like be free and explore a little bit without.
I hope so too.
Yeah, they're probably just way more aware of what's going on. And that
I think so. I think so. I think they just had, all of the generations starting with Gen X have just gotten a little less. Like Gen X had it tougher than the boomers and the generations before them. And then we had it significantly tougher than Gen X. And I think Gen Z has it way tougher than we did. Like, I think it just keeps eroding. It's and I think after Gen Z, it's like, well, we don't know what the hell's going to happen. Hopefully it starts to go the other way. I really hope so. But yeah, it's just wild how it's like, yeah, a lot of the stuff that we were told was going to be reality just wasn't there. Like everything we were told, like do this and then this will happen. Nope, because that was all gone. But even compared to Gen Z, like we had significantly more, and which is hard to imagine. Like it's hard to imagine that it got that much worse. Yeah,
I agree. I look back on my 20s with, I feel lucky. Like, honestly, it's like there is a glow to it of just being like, I haven't lived in New York for like 3 or 4 years at this point, but it's like even just kind of the uniformification of the way things like look, it just feels like a little different than it was when I was there. And I was only there for 7 years. It's like, I can't even imagine how the West Village, like people who've been there who are like 80 feel. Like it's been completely transformed, but that's corporatization.
Yeah. So you came to LA because of the job, the PA job. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got my first office PA job, and then from that I was recommended to a line producer, this guy Jerry Kupfer, he was doing a new show. He's kind of where my career really like started, because he produced all of 30 Rock and Kimmy Schmidt. And unfortunately I love those shows, but I got him on his first show like after leaving the Tina Fey universe. And so I worked on this like giant, it was when the streaming bubble was expanding and Amazon was like filling their coffers with massive Game of Thrones budget shows. And so I worked on this show, the first season of the show called Hunters. That was like the year of 2019. And it was a great experience. I learned like everything that I know about making TV. And then actually, since then, my career has just been full of like brick walls. Like it's been sad. In this January of 2020, I reached out to I had been working closely with the showrunner on Hunters, and he gave me a writer's PA job on his like this other show that he was doing. And so I flew out to LA in January 2020. I got like a room right by the Paramount lot. My husband stayed in New York, so I was paying like double rent. And I started as a writer's PA, and it was a really great experience. And then the pandemic hit. And so I flew back to New York, and luckily the room continued online. And I was actually like, my boss gave me the opportunity to kind of bump up to writer's assistant, which was awesome. And so I kind of had this dream of like, oh my God, like I'm going to now just be like writer's assistant, then like staff writer, and it's just going to like work out. And since then, it's like after that job ended in like July, I went back to working for my old line producer boss for the 30 Rock reunion special. And then I was like unemployed for a really long time. And then the show Hunters moved to LA. And so I was like, maybe this is my opportunity to move with the show and, then make a permanent move. And so, then I moved out to LA for the second season. Then just kind of over the next like 3 years, I became a showrunner's assistant. I worked for this director, David Wayne. And then, the show that I was on as a showrunner's assistant got cut off by the strikes. And then when it got picked up for the next season, Apple cut the showrunner's assistant position. And so then I went back to New York at the second half of last year to assist like another line producer that had been the UPM on another show. So now I've just been unemployed since working in New York. So I haven't worked in LA since like May of 2023, which has been awful. So I'm just like, it's hard. Luckily I'm a screenwriter. So when I'm unemployed, I do write a lot, but it's still like, I don't know, it's existential for sure.
No, it's wild. I mean, it's kind of the way things are going and continue to go. And it seems like LA is just eating its own tail and has no interest in course correcting. And but let's, I want to talk about what led you. So when did you start doing your own films and stuff like that? Like, was that always side by side?
So I did, when I was back in New York, I did a web series, with friends and like actors at UCB. I wrote that and I was in it, but I didn't direct it. And then, I wrote and directed a short film, at the end of 2023. So it was kind of like on the tail end of the strikes, starring, it's called Human Connection. It's starring one of the actors on the show Acapulco that I was working on. And it got into some festivals, which was really nice. I won Best Director at one of the festivals, which was cool. And, nice. And it was very much like kind of a safe space to like get on my feet as a director, which it was very small. It was like a 1-day shoot, but it worked out. And I love directing, but I just, since then I've kind of retreated to just back to screenwriting. I had an opportunity last year while I was in New York that I was developing a show with this production company, which is like kind of a huge, big break for me. And then unfortunately, like they decided not to move forward with it. But it was still like, took up a lot of my like creative time for like 6 months. But yeah, so I hope to like continue, directing my own stuff. I'm just like a little bit more in the space of like writing features right now and deciding like what project is like worth actually like, spending, I don't know, $10,000 on or something, or $5,000 on for a short or something. So at a bit of a crossroads.
I feel you. You. So let's get into how we met. We met in the healthcare activism space. So what led you to all that, and tell everybody about Hollywood4CalCare?
Yeah. So I was always a Bernie person. I hosted some like canvases in the 2020 race and canvassed for him. And obviously, love Medicare for all. And so then when I was in LA, 2021 was when I was working on that show Hunters in LA, and it was the big IATSE like near strike. There was like so much like labor activism going on in our industry. The IA stories thing where people were sharing their accounts of how we were all overworked and underpaid and we're putting our, families to the side. So that was all very inspiring. And I had been shooting overseas. My show shot in Prague for 5 weeks, and I got to go, which was awesome. It was at the end of 2021. And then I came back, and then kind of as soon as I came back, it was like the winter of into 2022, and I discovered CalCare, this bill that is the single payer Medicare for all bill for California, and it was active in the California legislature, and it's like no one knew about it, and I was just like, what is going on? I felt like I was like in a crazy world where I'm like, it's the middle of a pandemic, and we were all just talking about this with Bernie Sanders' presidency and stuff, and so yeah, I literally got started getting involved like 2 weeks like before the bill ended up being pulled in January. And so when the bill's author pulled it before it could get a floor vote, I was completely devastated and kind of just was like, okay, like the next time this happens, this cannot just be like in the shadows like it was. Like this is something that Bernie won like California by like 450,000 votes, like in the 2020 primary. And so, yeah, I got involved with DSA LA I was with them for like a couple years, but to be honest, they ended up being kind of like anti-single payer, which is maybe a story for another time.
Is? Okay, I can't.
Yes,
I can't speak to that, but okay.
DSA LA, I will say, if you want to organize for Medicare for all, the DSA LA does not even have a healthcare group anymore, because the group that I was in, we all left because they were opposed to CalCare, which was kind of like completely insane.
Was it? Well, I know some people, and I disagree with this analysis, but they are against any state bills because they think that that'll stop, any federal potential. And I disagree with that analysis.
Yeah, I disagree. That's definitely, and that's not even what this was. This was just like activists in LA kind of getting their information from this guy who is an ex-CNA staffer who now like is trying to push his own like watered down policy, which is like totally crazy. But he was like he got a ton of cred working for Bernie. Anyway, I can
maybe talk about that. You don't have to get like too insider.
Yeah. But yeah, so I was working with DSA, and then over that summer, I was like, all right, I think if I could get Hollywood to get involved with this, like that could really shine a spotlight on this policy that I think could get it across the finish line. Because I mean, I'll just, say it. It's like, single payer healthcare is on the California Democratic Party platform. Democrats have super majorities in the legislature, meaning they have like 61 out of 80 assembly seats and 31 out of 40 Senate seats. So Democrats really could pass any legislation that they wanted to. But it really is because this bill has really existed in the sequestered shadows of the like single payer advocacy movement. For the most part, like they've been able to get away with just blocking it when they can, or ignoring it.
Yeah, they've been blocking it for like 10 years and counting, and they take turns being rotating villains. Like they take turns. This person's going to pull it now. Now this person's going to pull it. Now this. And honestly, I mean, I don't always win friends and influence people when I say this, but I'm not saying this because it's just because it's the truth. Until it gets to the point where people realize, and by people I mean elected officials, where it becomes apparent that if you pull this bill, your job's gone. You will not win the election. Until that is the cost, it's going to keep happening. I mean, it will never stop. And when I said that, especially, and I'll mention the person, when Ash Kalra pulled it. And I know a lot of people like Ash. I don't know much about him. I hope he's sincere. I honestly don't know. But, just being objective, it's just until somebody who does that loses their job, even if you like them, like until, and I'm not, I'm just like it just became apparent once he did it. Because before it was like all the people that were doing it, it wasn't terribly surprising. But then when this guy who, was apparently a big pusher for it, pulled it, and then when people were like, well, tell us who we got a primary, and he wouldn't do it, then it was just like, do we actually have anybody on our side? And it really needs to be like, it needs to be
whenever somebody does this, they lose their job. Until it is that cut and dry, it is going to keep happening. And I know, like, I know people don't want to hear that because it's like, well, what if somebody who is pretty good for us gets replaced by somebody worse? And I'm like, I get it. But until that is the cost they know they're up against, it will never change. That's just, sorry.
And we're so far from that. Like, that's the really frustrating thing where it's like, even just doing this work for 3 years, I'm like, this is, I'm like, this is never going to happen unless there really is this, like, that's why I'm trying to get Hollywood on board with it, because it's like, you have to get a super majority of the state to be invested in this and to demand it. And it's like, when was the last time that even happened? Like, we don't get things that we want as Americans. Like, we do not organize. We do not get things passed, at least on the Democratic, progressive side. It's like, it's only the corporations that get what they want because they have money. And so, I just, luckily, our group has made some progress. Like, we have campaigns running in SAG-AFTRA and WGA and some IATSE locals. And we've made progress. We got a couple of the IATSE locals to endorse the last bill last year. But I have to be honest, it's like, these are they're still, the engagement is not there. It's like, I can have 1,200 followers on Instagram. And I do think more and more people are becoming aware of the bill, which is kind of the first hurdle, but that is not translating to the kind of like action that it will actually take to win this. Like, we need like the unions to be like, we're not working until we get this, like that. That's why I do have some, I don't know. I know I sound pretty like cynical, but it's like I'm in this phase of reorienting a little bit where I think Hollywood4CalCare and organizing for CalCare it's like an awakening, enlightening thing where it's like, as soon as I think there are a lot of people who are just asleep to the realities of like our political system. And then as soon as you see that, like, oh, there's a bill that like everyone wants, but the Democratic Party is the one that's keeping us from having it. It's like, that is an enlightening thing and a revolutionizing thing. And so it's like, I will continue with that work because I find that valuable, but like, I don't think we're going to really get this until it's like the UAW is organizing this 2028 general strike. It's like, and one of their demands is Medicare for all. It's like, I don't think it's going to happen unless we do something like that.
I don't think we're going to see any systemic change without a general strike.
Yeah.
I mean, again, like that's just another line in the sand. Until it is just shut down, we're done. Yeah. I don't really see much changing, at least not systemically. No. And here in California, it's so amazing. I mean, people think we're some progressive utopia, and we're so far from it.
I know, that's the op. It's like such an op.
It's such an well, and it's also like when you think about the California Democratic Party. I mean, even just putting aside the Democratic Party as a whole, but the California Democratic Party, it's just its own level of ridiculous because it's such a monolith in the state that you have people who are dem-entering trying to push it in a more left-wing direction. So you have socialists and stuff like that. And then you have Republicans just running as Democrats because they know they would never get elected otherwise. So you literally have like the most hyper-capitalists and socialist in the same political party. It makes no sense at all. But our system is just so effed up that is what we're stuck with. It's just one of the most ridiculous spectacles.
I know the way that like that, I feel like the defining thing of the past 10 years has been the Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass, Eric Adams, like this corporatization of the Democratic Party, where it's like they have successfully transformed even the idea of progressive leadership into true conservatism. And it's like, and now it's like, you can't, like the Republicans and the corporatists are just, they win. It's like they have figured out how to win no matter what you do. And it's like, we as progressives, it's like the rest of the country thinks of California. Yeah. Is this like progressive haven? And you're just like, if you could actually see what Gavin Newsom vetoes and what Karen Bass puts in her budget, and it's like, we're a Republican state, or we're like Democrats have become Republicans. And now so I don't know. It's like, but I do think, I don't know. And it's just to say, it's like, I think that like Gaza has kind of created this line in the sand that I think generally is good to be like, all right, there is like the pro-war party, and that includes the Democrats. And then it's like, then there's kind of everybody else who really wants to actually like change things for the good. But it's like we just have no power, which is sad.
Well, I think the smoke and mirrors is starting to come down, like around foreign policy and everything else. And I think a lot of people that are well-intentioned and reasonably politically engaged, but they're just kind of used to the system that we were all born into. They're kind of getting fed up, and they're kind of looking at the Democratic Party and they're going, what are you guys doing? Like, what the hell is happening? Because a fascist coup is going on right now. A fascist coup is going on, and there is no resistance right now. And I think people are noticing that, and they're realizing that is part of the problem, and that feeds that other problem. So I think that when people were saying that 8 years ago, like after Bernie got screwed over the first time in 2016, a lot of people weren't ready to hear that yet. But I think so many more people are ready to hear it now. And I hope it leads to something bigger. That's why, like, even when the oligarchy stuff was going on, I think it's really cool. And I don't put much stock in politicians in general, I mean, when it comes to like Bernie, AOC, if you're voting the way I want you to, great. If you're not, well, then I want to replace you with someone who will. End of story. Yeah. That's all. But I think it was really cool that thousands and thousands of people from all over the country were showing up for that cause specifically. So it's kind of like, well, what do you do with that energy? Because
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, if we
the unfortunate thing, I mean, I'll say this, it's like, I'm very torn about this whole oligarchy tour, because when, CNA spoke at the LA rally, which was 36,000 people, and CNA did not mention CalCare. It's like, what, like, I wrote a very strongly worded email to my like contacts in the organizer team at CNA to just be like, what is going on here? Why are you not connecting the dots that these are like the people that you need to bring into the Medicare for All coalition in California? And it's like, something is not connecting, or it's like, why didn't you do that? Like, I just, and that's what I think single payer activists get frustrated with, where it's like, we are working so hard in the trenches to like get people involved. And then it's like nurse leadership or Democrats, it's like, they don't pick up, like they don't do the work that actually would be needed to get it done. Like holding a firm line in the legislature and being like, we're not giving any of you any bills unless like you pass CalCare. It's like we need to get to a point where we're really playing offense with this stuff. And we just aren't there yet, which has been frustrating because I think you and me are ready to play offense, and yet our leaders are not. So.
No, I hear you. I actually, it didn't dawn on me that, they didn't even mention CalCare. And that is not
it's crazy.
Great. No. I mean, like I said, it's like, I mean, there's definitely plenty of things to be critical of. I'm not like, just kind of holding pom-poms for the whole thing. But I'm saying the positive takeaway I got from it was just all those people, not even just in LA, but just around the country. I mean, there's a certain energy that I think is even more so than 2016. And I really want to see that turn into something big. I don't know exactly what that'll look like. I just know I sure as hell want it to be a lot more than everybody go vote for a centrist in 2028. I want a lot more than that. And I'll try to do everything I can to help make that a reality. But, I'm just one person, you know.
I know it takes just from the work that I'm doing, and I'm not in a union, but I have people in all these other unions who, they have all these avenues to reach their fellow union members. They go to committee meetings and they have general meetings, and it's I don't know. It's that is where you actually can affect change. Because like I said, it's the only way to really pass CalCare or anything is for a super majority of people to demand it, because that's all we have. It's we only have numbers. We don't have money. And so, yeah, it's I'm just trying to get into a place where it's just getting numbers of people, and how do you do that? And unions are obviously one of the best places to do that, because people just don't congregate in other spaces like they do at work. So yeah, I don't know. I wish I was a little bit more optimistic. It's I don't even know if they're going to introduce a bill next year. Our work continues, but at the same time, people are not showing up to really carry the torch for this as much as they should be, which is kind of frustrating and exhausting. But
no, I hear you. I mean, and I do think that the time is just so perfect in so many ways, because it's you look at what's going on in the country. I mean, we are so far away from Medicare for all federally now, like even more. Well, let me ask you this, just as kind of a fun aside. Do you think if Bernie would have won, would we have Medicare for all right now?
In what in 2020?
Well, yeah, I guess we'll say 2020, or either. I mean, it could be either. You could take it for the whole, if you won in 2016 or.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
See, I think we would.
Yeah, I think maybe in 2020 we would, because we would have been in a pandemic and he would have been able to
he would have declared a big health emergency, and he would have instituted it via executive order. And then once we had it, they'd have a hard time taking it away. They'd try, and they might. I mean, honestly, they might succeed, but it'd be really. I mean, you talk to people in other countries. It's there's right wingers in other places that like there's right wingers in England trying to go after the NHS. It's not easy. They don't make it easy. The people do not make that easy, because they know what they have. But
no, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. At the same time though, I'm we don't even really, it's obviously Bernie is not Gavin Newsom, but it's the conditions are better in California for CalCare than they would have been federally for Medicare for all. And so it's but we don't have CalCare. And so I feel and Gavin Newsom ran on CalCare. So it's I don't know. It's the president isn't that powerful. I mean, I guess he is now with Trump, but then when Democrats get in, they're not. So I don't know. I just feel so torn about, it's passing it legislatively. It's I don't think even putting it on paper and saying this is the case now without the movement behind it. I don't know if that is possible. So who knows?
Well, the thing with, ballot measures and stuff here in California is that the other side has such an intense propaganda campaign. And the fact that they were able to, I mean, I'll tell you what, I lost a lot of faith in the California electorate with Prop 22. And that was for anyone, that was the Uber and Lyft thing, where basically a bunch of corporate propaganda convinced a bunch of people to vote against their own interests and allow Uber and Lyft to continue to exploit people and thus set the stage for them to price gouge. Other places in the world had similar bills that didn't fly. They tried a similar thing in the UK. The UK sniffed it out. But here in California, we failed the test. And I was so disappointed by that.
Yeah, it's, I know some things you're we shouldn't be voting on things like this. I mean, it's just we're up against, I mean, I don't know if that's a civil rights issue per se. Obviously, I think Medicare for all is a civil rights issue, but I I know but I don't trust our leaders that we currently have to like do the right thing either. So
do you think Gavin Newsom's going to run for president in 2028?
I feel like he's going down right now. It's like he's making an ass out of himself at every turn. And so
totally.
I really,
isn't that presidential though?
I don't know. It's like, I'll tell you a story. So we had, right before the fires, we kind of got this like false alarm due to we have a guy. So there's a woman in Hollywood4CalCare. She's a SAG-AFTRA member, and she has some immune disorder or something that if she loses if Obamacare goes away, it's like, she's like, I'm going to die because I have this pre-existing condition that is so expensive. And so her husband has become a huge CalCare person, like on her behalf. And after they blocked CalCare 1 year ago tomorrow, actually, in the Appropriations Committee, Buffy Wicks from Oakland, the Appropriations Committee chair, blocked CalCare from getting a floor vote. Since then, this guy, Mike, has been calling Gavin Newsom's office like every day or like every week. And so much so that they like started screening his calls and they knew who he was and they stopped picking up. But after Luigi, this guy called Newsom's office and he got like a second person. Like he had been basically screened by this one person and then started getting in another way. And Gavin Newsom was like, Mike was like, he started hearing back from Newsom staffers that there was like something cooking in the legislature, that there was going to be some like universal healthcare activists were going to be very excited about this thing that Newsom is doing. So we kind of started freaking out, being like, is this going to be some watered down version of CalCare, or, not even CalCare, like some just, I don't know, subsidy or some bullshit that Democrats do. And so he was like, Gavin Newsom doesn't have a lot of friends in the rest of the country, and no one in California particularly likes him. So what would make people in California like him and people in the rest of the country is passing single-payer healthcare. And the staffer was like, haven't really thought about that, but that's a good point. And it was just like, yeah, like that's the thing. It's like Gavin Newsom, you could literally like give yourself a layup to then you could pass CalCare. And then once you become president, you could sign it into law. You could sign the waivers that we would need to fund the system once you become president. But he's not going to do that because he has lost the progressive vote in California because he's, vetoed pro-labor bills. He's basically anti everyone besides corporations. And so, it's like he won't do it because he doesn't have the grassroots small dollar support to get him on the national stage. And so he needs corporations like, Anthem or, these big health insurance companies to fund his presidential ambitions. And so it's just, that's as simple as it is. It's like, I think we're seeing him pivot because he's like, I've lost and it doesn't matter. I don't need the California progressives anymore. I don't need the labor unions. Like we live in this new technocratic reality that I will benefit from.
Yeah, well, that's the biggest problem. It's like they don't need the left to lose, which means they don't need the left to fundraise, which means like they just don't need the left. I mean, really, like that's what you get, and this kind of just bleeds into. It's like this is what happens when you have a two-party system where Wall Street controls both parties, and one is openly fascist, one is neoliberal. Like that's it's just
exactly you get like Trump for a second term because it's like I don't blame people for not wanting to vote for someone committing a genocide. It's like, and now we're stuck with Trump. It's like
and all she had to do was distance herself the tiniest bit. And I think she might have still lost, but I think it could have helped her a lot if she would have just the tiniest bit distanced herself and she wouldn't do it. She just wouldn't do it. And it's kind of wild. Well, I want to get back to you a little bit because we got off on a tangent as I knew we would, and that's fine. But well, so why do you think it's so obvious for Hollywood, especially, to get on board with, single payer universal healthcare?
Yeah. Well, there's a bunch of reasons. The first that is really pressing right now, like, Hollywood is going for this gigantic $750 million tax incentive to basically pay multinational corporations like Amazon and Apple, who are now film studios, tax incentives to film in California because it has become uncompetitive with other places. Amazon and Apple shoot in Bucharest and Budapest and even the UK because labor is cheaper and because those countries provide healthcare to their citizens. And so the studios do not have to pay skyrocketing union health plan costs when they shoot overseas. So to make it more affordable to shoot in California, you take healthcare out of the equation and you are suddenly freed up hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't know the exact specifics, but we just ran a campaign in the Art Directors Guild where we endorsed some candidates for their national executive director. And one of the people we interviewed was the current president of the guild, and she was running for the executive director, but she was like, it's half. Like the AMBTP is paying essentially half of what they're paying us goes to healthcare. And so it's like, we don't even see that when you're a union member ridiculous. And it's like, you're like, wow, I'm only making $28 an hour and that won't pay my rent. And you're like, oh, well, it's because Amazon's paying $28 an hour for my healthcare, which is just absolutely crazy. And so, yes, that would make us competitive with every other country that offers healthcare to its citizens. The other thing is, we are a gig-based workforce. We go from job to job, often dealing with long periods of unemployment and with shortened series orders. We all used to watch 23, 26 episode seasons of television. Now we're seeing 10 episodes. That's like your work year is cut in half. And so it's becoming harder and harder for Hollywood workers to make the minimum earning threshold to qualify for their union health benefits. And so people are constantly getting kicked on and off their union health plans. And so this would make it so they can keep their doctors all year round and they don't have to have one set for when they're on and one set for when they are off. And then obviously, I've seen a lot of GoFundMes for people injured on set or, some disaster happens and that sucks. It's like we are all doing physical work that, I'm a writer and producer's assistant. I'm not holding a boom microphone all day, or I'm not lifting heavy lights, but that is really backbreaking work and it erodes our bodies and our health. And so, it would just create better living conditions and better health for our workers. That is why it is specifically good for Hollywood. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I don't know. It's just good for everyone in California. Yeah.
Well, then there's just a looming healthcare crisis in general that plays into all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know this about CalCare, but it's like, even on any health insurance in America, it's like, you're not getting long-term services. You're not getting like cradle to grave healthcare. It's like with CalCare, you are taken care of. If your doctor tells you need something, which is most healthcare, you are taken care of from cradle to grave. And I think we're all facing a really difficult aging process if we have no idea where our jobs are, if we're going to have homes, if we're the rate of homelessness is crazy in California. So it solves a lot of problems and saves money for the state and for the taxpayer.
So where can people go to learn more?
I know we don't really have a website, which we should, but we have an Instagram. We're Hollywood4CalCare. The main thing I want to say is that we have a petition, and that's kind of how we keep track of people. And so we have a link to that in our bio on Instagram. We do have a website. It's at Healthcare for Us. That's where Ron and I kind of met through. That's HC4 us.org, /Hollywood4CalCare. We have like our own page, and that's kind of just like our basic information about like what the campaign is. But yeah, give us a follow, sign the petition.
Wait, plug your stuff too. Tell people where to find you as well.
Oh yeah,
you.
Yeah, I'm Caroline O'Riordan at .com. And I don't know. I mean, I will be honest. I'm kind of in this. I'm desperately trying to find representation right now because I have all these scripts, or I have a couple scripts that I've gotten some great reviews on, and I'm just trying to like pass them around and get them out there. So yeah, I'm just would love to connect with anyone on the development or management side who is interested in telling stories kind of about like funny and heartfelt stories about kind of what life is like in America for normal people. I don't like writing about death or murder or explosions or monsters or anything, but I'm a humanist, realist writer. And so, yeah, that's my work with some funny stuff peppered in there.
Carolyn, thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, it was so nice to talk to you. Thank you so much for having me. Well, I know the world is pretty bad right now, but at least we have solidarity.
That was Caroline O'Riordan. Be sure to check out all of her stuff. And, with Termination Fee launching in less than a month, I thought it was appropriate for a healthcare-centric episode. Music for the 1000 podcast is provided by Andrew Saxon. I'll be sure to check out his podcast, the Baywatching Podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star review, would you? This is still a very new show. Every 5-star review helps. And if you want to support the show on the sustainability end, you can do so over patreon.com/RonFlacone. For a Give What You Can level, you get all kinds of exclusive content, full stand-up clips before they're that aren't released, actually. The 1,000 episodes before they're released publicly, insider information about upcoming films and events, free shows, free admission to shows, and we also do a Zoom hangout once a month. It's a really cool community we got going on over on Patreon, and that's all for a Give What You Can level, patreon.com/RonFlacone. All right, 88. This is 88. This is, oh man, the Pixies dropped Surfer Rosa. 1988, the Pixies dropped Surfer Rosa. That's, man, and once we're out of the aughts, or analogies to the aughts, I don't know what we're going to do. But right now, we're still in the 80s, itching up to 100, almost a tenth of the way through this project. Really makes you feel time. All right, catch you next week. Peace. Hey guys, Ron Flacone here. Take your own 1,000 challenge. No, you don't need to interview 1,000 people, although if you want to do that, go for it. Your 1,000 challenge can be whatever you want. Maybe you want to call a friend out of the blue once a week. Maybe you want to read a book every month. Maybe you want to start a different garden every season. I guess that might be dependent on where you live. Look, the point of the challenge is taking on an endeavor that enriches your life in some way, and it can be measured. And then, of course, you do it regularly. That's what 1,000 is doing for me, and hopefully for you too. The main reason for this podcast and every podcast I've ever done is to build community. So take your own challenge. Then join our Facebook group. It's called 1,000 What's Your Challenge? ? That's 1,000 What's Your Challenge ? And post about what your 1,000 challenge is and the progress you're making. All I ask is that people be encouraging of each other's challenges. This is personal and vulnerable, so be cool. There's enough negativity on social media. We don't need to add to it. For those of you who aren't on Facebook, hopefully in the future we'll be expanding to places like Discord, Reddit, but for now, we're starting on Facebook. And again, that Facebook group is called 1,000 What's Your Challenge? See you there.